Okay, today we're going to talk about overlapping triangles. That is our main idea. And when we do this, you can know, or you can see that triangles, these triangles are overlapping. You can see one is in a bold color and one is not, so that kind of helps you. So the first thing I do when I'm doing this is I separate them. So I'm going to take these two triangles and I'm going to separate them so I can see which two triangles I want to prove congruent. And it's also easier for me to see what I'm trying to, when they give me stuff, I need to be able to mark it. So I start with number 1. AB is congruent to CD, and that's given. And when I look at the triangles down here, that's not a whole side, so I'm just going to mark part of the side. So A to B, like right here, so I just mark part of this side right here. And C to D is right here. So then I think, well, is there something that I can do to prove this, to get this whole side? And I can say BC is congruent to itself by using the reflexive property. And then that'll give me the whole length of the sides of the triangle that I'm trying to prove congruent. Whoops, not given. That is by the reflexive property. So number 3, now I can say, well, this whole side is congruent to this whole side. So AC is congruent to BD by segment addition, because I added those two sides together. And that is a side of a triangle, so I'm going to put an S over here. Number 4, my next given is AF is congruent to ED, and that was given to me, so I'm going to go ahead and mark that. I put an S there. Number 5, FC is congruent to EB, so FC, this whole side over here is congruent to EB, which is this whole side right here, so these two sides are congruent. And that was given to me, and that's another S. So I am excited because I'm done. Whoops, I'm not quite done. So I have triangle CAF is congruent to triangle. Make sure you keep it in the same order. So if I went from C to A to F, in that order I have to go from B to D to E. So triangle D, wait, from C, so it's B, sorry about that, B, D, E. And I would say that they're congruent by side angles, or side, side, side. But that's not what I'm trying to prove. I'm trying to prove that angle A is congruent to angle D. So that's my next step. I'm going to say angle A is congruent to angle D because corresponding parts of corresponding triangles are congruent. Now I go to my next one, and I want to separate those triangles again. So I'm going to use a space up here. And we have E, J, and then G is congruent to F, J, H. And this one's kind of confusing because we have some numbers here as our angle measures. So angle 1 and 2 make up angle J in this triangle, and angle 2 and 3 make up this angle, or angle J in this triangle. So I have to be careful there. So number 1, angle 1 is congruent to angle 3. That's a given. So I can mark that on my picture, but I'm not going to mark it up here because it's only half of it. Actually, I am going to mark it, but I'm not going to mark the whole thing. Now I can see from there that we have some overlapping. So to complete this whole angle, I would have to use angle 2 here. And to complete this whole angle, I'd have to use angle 2. So I'm going to say angle 2 is congruent to angle 2. by the reflexive property. Number 3, I would say if I'm trying to get that whole angle, I added angle 2 and angle 3. So I have angle addition to get that whole big angle. So angle EJG is congruent to HJF. By angle addition. Number 4, and that is an angle, so I'm going to mark that as an angle because I just proved this whole angle is congruent to this whole angle. And then I go to EF is congruent to GH, and that was given. So EF, oh shoot, that's only part of that side, so it's only that distance, and GH is only this part. But I can see in the picture that this overlaps in both triangles. So I'm going to go ahead and say FG is congruent to FG by the reflexive property. And then number 6, I'm going to add FG and GH to get that whole side, to get this whole side here, to be able to mark these two congruent. So I would say segment addition. Well, and I get that because EG is congruent to FH. Number 7. So now we proved a side. So we have an A and an S. Number 7, angle E is congruent to angle H, and that was given to me. And so I look up here. Oh, awesome. So angle E and, sorry, angle H. Let me erase that. That is not true. Angle H, and that is an angle. So now we have ASA. So I'm going to say number 8 that the triangles are congruent. So triangle GEJ is congruent to triangle, and you have to make sure they match up now. So if I started with G over here, and I went to E and then J, I have to start with F and go to H and J. So F, H, J. And that's congruent by angle, angle, side. Then number 9. Oh wait, I'm done. I don't have a number 9. So if I want to go back, I have this triangle. I was just trying to prove the triangle was congruent. So I am actually done. Now you're going to go on and you're going to do the rest of the problem. So you only have 3, 4, and then on the back side 5, 6, 7, and 8. Be careful when you do number 5. Make sure, oops. Number 5, make sure that you separate these triangles. So if I'm doing number 5, I have this triangle, which is right here. And then I have the other triangle, which kind of hard to see, is this triangle right here. This one I have this one right here, and that one right there. So make sure you label them. I'm looking at the bottom one's number 7. I have this triangle right here and this triangle right here that they're trying to prove congruent. And for this one, it's this triangle with this triangle. So be careful when you do it. Make sure you separate those triangles when you're trying to prove that they're congruent.